Disclaimer. The following is a fan-made story inspired by the works of Jodo Boy, aka Loser Makes Games. Namely, that of Sonic.EXE, which is the universe this tale takes place. At the time of this story being written, the game has not been released, so it will likely differ from this story. Sonic.EXE is co-owned by Jodo Boy and Shay. Please support them in their future work. And as a final warning, this story contains content that might be disturbing to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Now, without any further delay, enjoy the story.
The strength of the human mind is something that varies greatly from person to person. Some crumble at the slightest struggle, and others are unbreakable. But he never believed in the latter. He's certain that every human has a breaking point sooner or later, and so far, nothing's proved him wrong. But for the time being, maybe I'm something that serves to make him question that. He's bent me, yes, in more ways than you can imagine, but he's yet to break me. I'm far from the person I was before I was dragged into whatever the hell this place is, but I'm still alive and I'm still sane. That doesn't mean I've managed to evade death. No. Death is never the end in this place, and it's never uncommon. It's just the end of his latest game. Just when you begin to fade out, suddenly you're awake somewhere new, fully healed. And then it's back to square one. I've lost count of how many times I've died at his hands, and even more so, how many ways. He's killed me in more ways than I ever could have imagined. One minute, I'll be drowning perpetually, being kept alive as water continues to fill my lungs. The next, I'll be getting disassembled with surgical precision, taken apart, bit by individual, excruciating bits. Sometimes, I'd be impaled on giant stakes, left to bleed out slowly. Other times, he just caved my face in with his bare hands. I'd never know what he would come up with next. All I could ever know is that it would never be quick, and it would never be easy. And the death that finally come after wasn't a release. Not in any sense of the word. That's just when the next game would start. Hide and seek, tag, foot races, those sound simple, right? Easy, maybe even a little fun. Games like that are his favorite, but his idea of fun is, well, I'm sure you can imagine, but even so, I know for a fact that you don't fully comprehend, you do not grasp just what he is. The closest thing to a name he has is just X. Sometimes he likes to throw Lord in front of it, but I wouldn't be caught dead calling it. Well, maybe caught dead isn't the right phrase around here, but I'd never show that kind of reverence. Not to him. Yes, I am afraid of him, but I know that as long as I keep a strong mind, he will keep me around. And as long as I'm around, there are chances upon chances. Escaping him, outsmarting him, maybe killing him. Things like that certainly feel impossible, but this place, his world, it embodies the very idea of possibility. Anything his mind conjures up can and will happen. And a place with endless possibilities, even ones as twisted as these, will always carry a glimmer of hope somewhere, no matter how far away, how faint, or how small. It is there. But until then, I have to keep playing. Through every game, through every loss, and every death. I may not have a choice in what to do, but I do have a choice in how I approach it, and that is what will make all the difference. X is a very strange concept on paper. As far as I know, he is some kind of creature that really, and I mean really likes, of all things, Sonic the Hedgehog. Yes, the game series. So much so that he matched both his appearance and his world to it, but not without his own demented twists on it. You could be in, say, Green Hill, with flowing blue water, beautiful flowers, and a bright warm sun, wondering what could possibly go wrong. But soon that warmth would turn into scalding heat as the hills around you begin to burn. The flowers would grow eyes, teeth, and other appendages, as if they themselves were flesh. The rivers would run red with blood, and the skies would blacken. Yes, I know what you're thinking. It sounds edgy, absurd, try-hard, and you'd be right. But I guess that's just what he likes. It's his sense of style, whatever. I know hearing me describe it doesn't sound all that scary, not all that serious, but when you're really there, getting your fingers bitten off by a flower, jumping into that river of blood to extinguish the flames covering you, only to be greeted with that now all too familiar metallic taste, I think it'll make you rethink things a little bit. It is the most extreme and over-the-top example of a nightmare, and the absurdity truly is lost on you when you have to confront the reality of it. As you'd expect, his appearance would match the world that he's made. Shocking no one, he looks like Sonic. When I first got here, he looked just like Sonic, but with few but very stark differences. His eyes were black caverns with glowing red pupils. His mouth was full of messy, gnarled yellow teeth, and his shoes, for whatever reason, were gray, and his eyes constantly leaked blood or some weird black fluid. But that was a long time ago. He's aged very visibly since then. His fur is grayed and darkened, his limbs have grown grotesque and bony. His gloves and shoes are rotted, his face wrinkled with age. But he had other differences that had nothing to do with age. I guess he just liked how they looked more. His teeth had become straighter and more symmetrical, but never less yellowed or sharp. His red eyes now sport red-black pupils with an X going through each. And as if to hammer home that X motif, he carved a large X into his stomach. It seemed to be a wound that would never heal, not even with scar tissue. Just the flesh slowly rotting to a dark magenta color. He seems very proud of the look. And to top off all this Sonic madness, he creates these vessels for his victims that he'll put their souls into. And these vessels, you guessed it, are just the bodies of different Sonic characters. He put my soul into the body of Tails, or just another Tails vessel he made, so that's just who I am until I get out of here. Normally, I deem explaining how I got here as a waste of time, due to it being both boring and illogical as all hell. But I'm making an exception because I want you to understand how dangerous X is. See, this place is connected to the normal world through one key thing: a video game just floating around the internet. This game acts as a gateway he can drag your soul through, where he'll make you just like me and whoever else has come before and after me. I remember just searching around random websites for Sonic fan games to play. Yeah, I was a fan too. You'd think the worst thing that could happen from downloading a game off a shady website would be a virus, but apparently the worst thing is actually being dragged into hell for all intents and purposes. The more you know. Yeah, I just saw some game named something inconspicuous like Sonic PC port. Thought it looked like a neat horror game and decided to play. One thing led to another, and curiosity killed the cat. I'd tell you to use this as a warning, but truth be told, I imagine he's smarter than to use the same Trojan horse every time. He could use all sorts of disguises for his game. Plenty not even under the guise of a horror game. And he could put on a damn good act, too. What I can't imagine, however, is him dropping the Sonic shtick. It's his thing, his obsession. It's the only thing he likes almost as much as playing his twisted games. I don't know how you're hearing me right now. Whether it be through a recording, words on a screen, or hidden in a titanic wall of ones and zeros. That's if anyone hears me at all. I may not be able to tell you what to do, and I won't try and give you a step-by-step guide on how to stay away from this place. Just be careful and trust your instincts. I felt something was wrong when I was playing that game, but I ignored my gut, and that is how I wound up here. Whoever you are, just don't fuck up like I did, okay? Anyway, I'm not here reaching out to give an origin story or survival guide. I'm reaching out to begin documenting my experiences here in an effort to retain my sanity. Yes, recounting and ultimately reliving my maddening encounters may be detrimental in some cases, but the key to finally breaking me is making me forget. Forget who I still am at the end of the day. Forget what I'm fighting for. Letting the days blur together completely is the first step in a slippery slope into madness. The experiences I will be sharing here are of much greater interest than the same old pointless torture I've grown used to. That's because X has decided to change things up. Something very different has begun. It started in the middle of Angel Island. The forest was burning all around us. I was stuck on my hands and knees after he sliced my Achilles tendons in the chase. He stood over me with those piercing red eyes, but something was different this time. He wasn't as excited as he usually was. He wasn't even smiling at me. He almost looked bored. Then he spoke.
This is getting a little stale, isn't it?
I looked at him, astonished. After all this time, I never took him to be the type to get bored of an obsession like this. What do you mean? I asked, still out of breath from the chase.
Our playtime has become rather formulaic, repetitive even. Even with all my creativity, I can only keep things interesting for so long. There'll be two things I think will help really shake things up.
And what would those be? As if on cue, his wide grin returned and dark, old-looking blood began to pour slowly from his eyes as he turned to me.
I'm glad you asked. One is new players, and the other is greater stakes.
I looked at him confused, which prompted him to continue.
I'm going to give you a chance to leave my world and return to yours.
For the first time since I got here, I was rendered speechless. I genuinely could not believe what I was hearing. I don't know if I should trust such an offer from him. I don't know if I could.
I've prepared a greater game for you this time. Something much bigger. Almost like a campaign of sorts. 8 zones, each with a new opponent for you. I'm sure you recognize them. They're all a part of me, after all. My 7 guardians.
I've seen them lurking in the shadows. Strange characters I didn't fully recognize. They were all demented, Sonic-like creatures, but they varied far more in appearance. But they all lurked in the distance as I ran and fought for my life, so I never got a good look. Nothing more than blurs of color.
They each embody a human concept. Don't hold it against them if they come off a little strong. I'm still learning about humanity.
He let out a high-pitched giggle, in stark contrast to his raspy voice.
I'd give you a little guide on them, but they all end up talking about themselves sooner or later. You'll get to know them quite fast. The rules of our grand game are simple. Survive the obstacles and hazards the lands hold. Overcome the guardian waiting at the end. Repeat 7 times. And reach the end. If you win, you go home. Simple as that. No strings attached. What do you say?
And why the hell would I trust you?
What other choice do you have? A guaranteed eternity of suffering? Surely a chance at freedom is infinitely more appealing, right? Come now, have I ever lied to you?
You literally trapped me here by tricking me.
I simply hid from you. This is different. Now then, do we have a deal, Alan?
That was when I thought, shit, that's right, Alan. My name is Alan. At that moment, I realized that my mind may have begun slipping more than I was aware of. I realized that if I don't take this chance, I may finally lose myself. That's what X wants more than anything else. I looked up at him with his hand now extended out towards me for a handshake. Grabbing that grotesque hand was the first step to that glimmer of hope. Fuck it. Deal! I groaned as I strained to reach up to shake his hand. Next thing I knew, I was somewhere else entirely. I stood up to survey my surroundings, realizing that my tendons he'd cut were now healed. It was dark. It seemed like a vast desert surrounded by mountains. A red moon hung in the sky, casting the land into a deep shade of red. Off in the distance there was light. Lots of lights. It looks like a circus. It doesn't take a genius to realize that the circus is probably where he wants me to go. Getting ready to make my first move, I heard X's giggle behind me. So I thought. I looked around as it continued briefly. The volume never changed as I turned, leading me to realize that it was in my head.
I'll be watching you, Alan. This is going to be so much fun.
That made me stop for a moment. He's really gonna be on my ass the entire time, I thought. Not sure why it did, but that led me to the section of reflection you've been hearing / reading / watching / whatever the hell. I decided I'm gonna be documenting my journey through this campaign he's made. Whenever I start doubting myself, I need to look back at however far I've come. It'll help me stay strong, and it will help me win this. He's gonna regret giving me this opportunity. Whoever's out there listening, I'll try and keep in touch. I will find the way out, no matter what.
Yeah.